Welcome back to my channel. I'm Joe with Smokin Joe's Pit Barbecue. So I recently had one of my subscribers ask me if you can make pastrami using chuck roast. Well, we're about to find out. Stay tuned. All right, let's get started on this chuck roast pastrami recipe. I do have my Heston Q induction burner. And by the way, if you're doing any cooking on your kitchen island, I highly recommend that you grab one of these. Check out the links below. So I'm using my cast iron pan, and this Heston Q induction burner works fantastic with anything cast iron. So I'm just gonna slide the burner to about halfway. Okay, and I've got half a cup of pickling spice. Just throw that in there. And this heats up really fast. Now you can purchase all the pickling spices separately, but I just like to order this from Amazon. Check out the links below if you guys are interested in buying that. It's just a lot easier and faster to buy the pickling spices already mixed. So what we're trying to do here is just to release the aromatics of the pickling spice. We're not trying to cook it or burn it. One of the benefits of lightly toasting your pickling spices is that your house will smell like autumn. I'm not sure if you guys know who she is, but it smells really good. Oh man, this is starting to smell really good. I'm going to be adding 1 cinnamon stick. All right, that's good enough. I'm going to add 1 quart of water. I'm also adding 1/3 of a cup of kosher salt and 1/3 of a cup of brown sugar. Now you don't want to bring this to a boil, you just want the salt and the sugar to melt into the water. All right, so the salt and the sugar have completely melted in. I'm going to go ahead and turn my induction burner off, and I'm adding 2 tablespoons of speed cure. So the reason you want to add the speed cure or curing salt is to keep our chuck roast from spoiling, because our chuck roast will be curing for 5 days inside of this cure. All right, I'm just going to move this aside and go grab the chuck roast. Stay tuned. All right, so here's my 3-pound chuck roast. Now this video is sponsored by E3 Meat Company. Check them out. They have an amazing story and they're big supporters of our military. So 3 pounds, okay? So I'm just going to grab it. Put it inside an aluminum foil pan, just a small pan. So it looks like it's level with the top. So what's gonna have to happen is after 2.5 days, I'm just gonna come and flip it, okay? So let's pour in our cure. And this is cooled off already, okay? Just like that. Pour a little bit of cold water in here. Get all those spices out of there. There we go. Just a little bit more water. All right, so I'm just going to cover this pan with some saran wrap. Followed by some aluminum foil. All right, so I'm gonna pop this in my fridge for 5 days. At the 2.5 days, I'm gonna remove the foil and the plastic and flip that chuck roast. We'll see you then. Stay tuned. All right, so the chuck roast has been curing for 5 days. Let's take a look at it and see what it looks like. So just a reminder, at the 2.5 day mark, I did come and flip the chuck roast. That way, the entire chuck roast got cured. Look at that. It smells amazing. So at this point, what I'm gonna do is just take the chuck roast out and rinse it under cold water. I'll bring you guys right back. All right, so I rinsed off the entire pastrami chuck roast. And the reason I do that is to get rid of all that salt and sugar that we used in the cure. So I'm gonna treat this like a brisket as far as seasoning. I'm gonna apply a little bit of mustard on the outside surface. just to get that rub to stick. Plus, pastrami sandwiches do use mustard, but you won't be able to taste this mustard that I'm putting on the surface here. So this recipe is perfect if you have a smaller family and you don't want to cook an entire brisket. You can use these smaller cuts of meat, especially chuck roast. All right, so the rub that I'm using on this chuck roast pastrami is from Galindo's Texas Barbecue. This is his Texas Trinity Rub, and I've heard some really good reviews on this rub. Supposedly, it's SPG on steroids, and if it is, it's gonna be delicious. So I can tell you that it's got heavy pepper, heavy garlic, and salt as well. So this is gonna give us a really nice bark. It smells really good. Okay, pat that down. All right, so I've got my Yoder Y640 pellet smoker running at 265 degrees. Let's head outside. All right, so I've got my Yoder Y640 pellet smoker running at 265 degrees. Gonna be cooking this chuck roast pastrami on the top shelf. So one thing about the chuck roast, it's gonna wanna separate on you. So when you place it inside your smoker, kind of put it together, if you will, squeeze it together. That way it stays together throughout the entire cook. All right, so I'm gonna let the chuck roast smoke for about 3 hours at 265 degrees. I'll bring you guys back at that point. Stay tuned. All right, so the chuck roast pastrami has been smoking for 3 hours. Let's take a look at it. I haven't spritzed or anything. In fact, that surface is still nice and wet, so there's no need to spritz. Let's get an internal temperature and see where we're at. 161, 163 degrees. All right, so I'm gonna make an audible and not wrap this chuck roast pastrami. I'm just gonna go ahead and let it roll 100% of the way uncovered in smoke. That's gonna give us a little bit extra smoky flavor. And by the way, if I didn't already mention it, I am using Jealous Devil pellets. These are a blend of cherry, maple, and hickory. So it's gonna give us some really nice color and also some really nice flavor. We'll check back in a couple of hours. Stay tuned. All right, so the chuck roast pastrami is ready and the total cook time was right at 6 hours. And it has been resting for about 30 minutes now. Let's take a look at it. Oh yeah, look at this bad boy. It smells absolutely fantastic. All right, so this chuck roast pastrami has some really nice texture on the outside of it, and it smells really good. I smell a little bit of sweetness, and that's coming from our cinnamon stick that was inside of our brine. So let's just take a few slices and see how we did. So we have a nice red color on the inside, and we do. Look at that. Really nice bright red color too. And that's coming from our brine, okay? Look at that. This is going to make some fantastic sandwiches. Now, if you're gonna be making pastrami with a brisket, you wanna make sure that your brisket sits inside the marinade or cure for 7 days, okay? Because this was a small roast, I opted to go with 5 days. And as you can see, it's absolutely perfect. Look at that, really nice and juicy as well. All right, I'm gonna take a few more slices. We'll come back and make a sandwich. Stay tuned. All right, let's make ourselves a chuck roast pastrami sandwich. We're gonna start with some spicy brown mustard first. Spread that out. Next, we got some Swiss cheese. You've gotta have Swiss cheese. Just like that. And here's our pastrami. Actually, let's do it this way right here. Man, this is gonna be delicious. Just layer it on there. One more slice. Just like that. Put the lid on it. Oh yeah. Let's cut it in half. Look at that. Let's give it a taste. All right, let's give this pastrami sandwich a try. Before I bite into the sandwich, I'm gonna try the pastrami by itself. So here we go. Amazingly delicious. That rub on the outside edge is fantastic. All right, so that crust on the outside edge is coming from this Texas Trinity Rub from Galindo's Barbecue. It's fantastic. I can't wait to try this stuff on a brisket. All right, let's give our sandwich a try and see how we did. All right, so that sandwich right there is popping with so many flavors. You've got that smokiness coming from the pastrami, that rye bread, the Swiss cheese, that spicy brown mustard. This is an amazing tasting sandwich. So as I mentioned earlier in the video, if you got a small family or you simply don't feel like smoking an entire brisket to make pastrami, grab yourself a nice chuck roast, follow this recipe, and you're gonna end up with some delicious pastrami. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Don't forget to check out all the links below for some of the items that I use in this video, from the cutting board to the knives to that delicious Galindo's Rub. If this is your first time here, do me a favor and hit that subscribe button. And if you enjoyed this video, give me a thumbs up. Until next time, Joe with Smokin Joe's Pit Barbecue. See ya.